Welcome, everybody. So we're just going to wait and let everybody come on. So tonight should be fun. We have several different topics that we're going to cover because I had everybody send in their questions ahead of time. So yeah, this should be good. So let's just see. Now we are going to try and do private chats too. So I do have a friend who's watching. So hopefully she can tell me what questions you guys ask. So some of the topics that we're going to be discussing tonight was on a pole shift or solar flash, the 0 point, Kundalini channels. If you guys can hear me, just throw a quick thumbs up. So I can only see that 5 people are watching total. Excellent. Hi, everybody. So happy to have you guys. It's amazing. Okay. So let's see. Let's just dive right into it. So the pole shift. And so we can already see that the pole shift is manifesting. And so what that looks like is the North Pole and the South Pole is starting to move. And so you may have noticed that the magnets or the compasses have changed. Or so you may be looking at an old school compass and it may be giving you an incorrect direction. And so that's happening because the North and South poles are starting to shift. And so this is okay because this is actually part of the evolutionary process. And so when this is happening because the frequency of the planet is rising. And so you have to realize that magnetic energies are actually connected into the heart space. And so it's our hearts that are calling for an evolution of the entire species. Now, this is also the primary reason why many starseeds were reincarnated here during these times. And we were incarnated here specifically to hold higher biological frequencies, which then in turn, it's going to allow the entire planet to evolve spontaneously with a solar flash. However, most things that starseeds are unaware of is that we are capable, and it's readily available to download right now, to tune into the 5D frequencies. And so what does that look like? That looks like having joy and bliss in your heart. And so, yeah, it can't, it's not always easy to let go of the darkness, the fear, the shadows, the traumas that we all walk through, because every single person on this planet has experienced some form of trauma. And so, but when you really start to look at yourself and do focus on self-love, you start to realize that I'm worth it. I'm worth giving love to myself and healing myself. I'm worth being perfect in my divine nature, whatever that looks like, no matter how broken you are. All of us are broken to a degree. And so even if it's not on the exterior, it's physically, it's mentally, it's the same thing. It's all brokenness. And what we do is we put the pieces back together and we carry on and we raise our frequency. And many people who are starseeds, you came here to walk the darkness because you knew that you were going to have the capability of healing it very, very rapidly. And so many of us were born into families that were just so toxic and negative. And so what happens is that we forgive them anyway. And we go through the cycle of the narcissism and the pessimist. And so you're very forgiving, but then eventually you learn to have boundaries. And when you start to set your boundaries, then all of a sudden you protect yourself more. And so that leads into the ascension process. Because when you protect yourself more, because you value yourself more, that's a form of self-love. And so you love yourself. And so then all of a sudden your frequency starts to raise because you make a list. What is it that brings you happiness and joy? Make a list. If you weren't happy today, make a list and just do one of the things on your list. If reading a book makes you happy, then read the book. All right. So how did you feel? Did you feel 5% happier than yesterday? Yes. Check it. Right. So then do it again tomorrow. Do it again every single moment that you get, because whatever makes your heart jump for joy, that's your reason for being here. That's your highest passion. And so there are jacks of trades who are good at many, many things. And so you may see those people may get excited to jump for joy from one topic, and then all of a sudden they switch and then they do something else. And so that's because they're good at everything and they're going down the list. But all of that is an experiential. And so each experience has to be viewed by the source frequency to 3 different degrees. And so each of us is actually adding to a collective consciousness grid, which each negative experience must be fully manifest in the physical reality in order for the source frequency to experience every single potential. When humanity's consciousness grid experiences every single potential, it is then and only then that the solar flash will manifest for each person. And so when that happens, it allows the entire human collective consciousness grid to change its vibratory frequency or oscillation, they are saying. And then in turn, That light passes through the human consciousness grid, which surrounds the planet, which is connected into the pole, the magnetic poles. And that beams down into each and every individual on the planet, thus changing the biological frequency wave of each person's consciousness, they are saying. And so, yeah, that's that. The 0 point. The 0 point is actually something inside the heart chakra. And so the heart chakra is your heart chakra beams positivity out towards the front, and any fears generated get out towards the back of the heart chakra. And so you may notice when you're in love, Instagram paused me. I don't know if you guys can see me. So you notice that when you're in a frequency of love, your shoulders may kick back and your heart becomes more exposed. And that's normal because that's how the energy is flowing. So each body motion that you make is actually a projection of your energetics. And so your energetics is inside your biological form, but it's radiating out of you. So when you're really, really happy and excited, you may be told that you're glowing. And so people, when they first get into relationships, they get told, oh, you guys are glowing. And that's because your light or your aura field is brighter during those moments. That's actually when you know that you're tuned into the source frequency. And so, oh, perfect. Thank you, Allie. Yeah. And so when you're tuned in to source frequency, it's like a love-based emotional frequency. And so then in turn, you start manifesting into the higher frequency ranges, which changes the way that other people perceive you. So other people are going to perceive you as being happier, being brighter, or your skin may look clearer. Your hair may look more vibrant. And so all of these things are directly impacted by your biological frequency. Now, I can't stress this enough, but your location code actually plays a huge response on your biological frequency. Because if someone's in a toxic environment, that toxicity actually has such a negative impact on the physical form. And so we see this over and over again in people who are in houses where everything is falling apart or the walls are broken. And so there's a lot of chaos energy inside that home. And so it's like they feel like they can't escape it, but that's because they're putting themselves in a lower vibrational location. And so what the star people recommend is go outside. If you can't physically leave that home, take steps outside, ground in nature. This way, at least you're going to start the process of rebalancing yourself. And so when you start the process of rebalancing yourself, then all of a sudden, everything in your life can actually change. You can pull yourself into a positive polarity, still living in a negative location code. I know this to be a solid fact. And so it does take movement. And so you want to spend a lot of time outdoors. You want to start eating fresh, raw food. Raw foods contain light ions. So it's very important that you're eating your light ions. And so just consider it, you're eating energetics. And when you eat energetics, those energetics actually fill your energetic grids. Now, whatever makes you happy and excited, that is what you were designed to do, because your energetic grids will shen. This is what they know it as, what it's called. And so when you shen, it means that all your light becomes more vibrant. So follow your highest passion. Make a list. What are things that you can do? Now, the 0 point, when you go into a meditative state, the energy between the front of the heart chakra and the rear of the heart chakra, directly in the center, there's a Kundalini tube that goes down the physical form. It's actually one tube with another one around it, like that. And so one is made of pure light, and then the second one is dark matter. The dark matter is connected into the void space. And so the star people say that all light gets evolved or spontaneously forms from darkness. And so the darkness is on the outside, the light's in the middle, because the light was birthed from the darkness. And so that's how you remember these two tubes. They're directly in the center of your physical form. Now, the other Kundalini channels, you have the one in the front, is connected into the solar plexus, is connected into the ether, is also connected into air, the element. And so you are meant to be breathing in the elementals with each and every breath. And so when you take it as a meditation, you breathe in the air. Now, all of a sudden, all of the ether and the energetics that's in the air, because we know that in a single sugar cube, there's enough power, or there's enough energy in the sugar cube to heat the entire oceans. And so you take a look at that. Now, all of a sudden, with the conscious mind, focus on pulling that energy inside your body. And so do that while you're breathing in the air. What kind of biological change is going to happen? You're going to feel a difference after a while of doing it. Now, there's other breath work meditations that you're also able to do. And so different types of breath work would be pulling in a lot of air and then releasing all the air and holding your breath. Wim Hof does that one, and he's the Iceman. And so what is he doing? He's activating the fight or flight systems, which then in turn allows him to activate extrasensory abilities. So he's able to keep himself under the ice for extremely long periods of time. And so your fight or flight system is designed to keep you alive during stress. So when you turn that on, now all of a sudden, you're able to do things like lift a car off of a person. So that is a real thing. That's tapping into the crystalline DNA system. Now, there's also codons. And so if you realize the way the DNA is actually formed, it's formed like you have the little teeny strands in the DNA and it spirals around. Each tiny 3 strands can be a codon. And so you have ABC, but it can repeat ABC, ABC, ABC. But each one of those codons can either be positive, negative, or neutral. And so what the star people say is, if they're positive, they're activated. If they're negative, they're forming a disease. If they're neutral, they're junk DNA. So what is the junk DNA? The junk DNA is a crystalline DNA. So all you have to do is use your conscious mind and your focus. Because when you're using your focus to turn on the codons in the DNA, now all of a sudden you can tune into the crystalline DNA subsystems and you can tell it things like, I am able to move an item with my mind. And the more and more that you place focus on it, that will manifest into your physical reality. Because the physical reality, it's a hologram of sorts. And so you look at the atoms and molecules of each and everything in this reality. And so you take it under a high-powered microscope, and you're going to notice that they're all under a state of vibratory frequency, which basically means that it's not really solid. And so the microscopes show us that. And so when you have a plant, the plant too, you put it under the microscope, the atoms and molecules are vibrating. And so what happens when we send loving, caring, kind thoughts to the plant? The plant grows 10 times its original size. And so now you take that concept. Now, what happens when we do this to Mother Earth as a whole, right? So the grass is going to be greener. The trees are going to grow in better. And so you're going to start to notice a lot more peace and cohesion in the surrounding elementals they are saying. And so why is that important? That is important because when you start blessing your mother, she starts blessing you. Now, we are supposed to be feet to earth, grounded on this planet. And so what happens, right? You put onions in your sock when you go to sleep. What does the onion do? It's pulling out all of the toxins from the bottom of the feet. Well, now take that concept one step deeper. Now, we always talk about grounding from an electrical standpoint. What happens from a physical standpoint? There's nutrients and nutrition that gets absorbed through the bottom of the feet that nobody ever discusses. So how does that work? Because you're meant to go walking in the forest, because the forests have some of the densest nutrient-rich soil out of any areas of Mother Earth. And so even walking and even the cycle of life with the animal droppings, it goes back into the earth. It's giving nutrition. It's a cycle of life. And so we are meant to be touching that with our feet, because any nutrition that your body is lacking, the earth knows, and the earth will give to you through the bottom of your feet. It's a two-way system. So certain things pull toxins out, like the onions, and certain things are absorbed through the skin. Now, we know that we can absorb different things through the skin. This is why we put Dead Sea salt in our baths, all right? And it's to absorb the minerals through the bath water. It gets pulled in through the skin. So now we question, what are they spraying in the chemicals above our heads? Because all of that is going into the air, it's going into the atmosphere, and then that's also getting absorbed through the skin. And what can we do about it? Well, there are certain meditation techniques that can be done instantaneously, and you only need one person. I'm living proof of that because I've seen it. And so what you do is you just come into a place of peace and love in the heart. Really open up your heart and just visualize, what does it look like to have a beautiful blue sky, warm, sunshiny day? And you just allow that thought, that emotion, that frequency, just allow it to overcome your physical form. And then just say thank you to Mother Earth for cleaning your sky. A ring of blue will open right above your head. Now, how does that work? What's the science behind it? So the science behind it is the earth has a frequency that's known as the Schumann resonance. When the Schumann resonance goes up the physical form, it kind of forms like a DNA. It forms a vortex energetic is what the star people call it. And so the vortex energetic, it flows up the physical form and it comes out the crown chakra and it taps into the human consciousness grids. And so the emotion that you are holding in the now moment determines the frequency range that you are pulling and pushing through your biological form. And so that frequency of oh, it's a blue sunshiny day, comes out, and then all of a sudden it starts to impact the physical reality. This is real, and anybody can do this. Nobody is more special than one another. Everyone is equal. And so if one person can do it, we can all do it. You just have to want it. You just have to place your focus on it. You just have to try. And once you do it once, guess what? You've unlocked the belief pattern. When you unlock the belief pattern, then all of a sudden it becomes easier to do over and over and over. And so have a child do it, because the children do it super fast, especially if they're under the age of 7. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Now, I can't really see any of the questions. Oh, there's a chat box here. Okay, perfect. Now I can see them. If anyone has questions, just feel free to kick them in. And if you guys can hear me, just do a quick thumbs up. As my train goes by, I don't know if you can hear that. Yeah. Okay, so tree spirits and activation. And so that's a really good one, because one of my very close friends actually went somewhere. She went to a sacred site. And so the tree was huge. And then one spiritual person sat underneath the tree. They took a photo and she looked like a ray of light. And then, so that is actually a tree spirit. Now, during many years ago, there was a tree very, very big, and it kind of looked like a giant tree, literally a big giant tree. And so that one was actually cut down. And so it kind of looks like a mountaintop now that's been sawed off. And so the reason why that was cut down is because that was an electrical magnetic tree. And so just like the Avatar movie, we had a tree of life on this planet that each and every one of us could go to. We could touch a leaf. This is what the star people said. You could put one finger on that tree and connect into it. And so what did that tree do? It was a tree of life, and it healed us. And so it allowed our electrical systems to come back into balance and cohesion automatically. And so where is that now? The Aurora Borealis is right there. That's where the tree was. And so every planet should have one. And when you think about it, if the planet is circular and the planet is generating electrical magnetism in one spot, and it's very, very strong, there's going to be something that grows out of that spot, because that's kind of like a vortex spot. Vortex spots are life-giving spots. So whenever you have a vortex spot, or say you call one into your backyard, you may notice a ring of greener grass, and it may be thicker. It might even have little white flowers on it. And so that's how you know that, hey, I just manifested a vortex. And so what is a vortex? Many times children manifest vortexes automatically. And they do this just by having no shoes on and dancing as they are children on the earth. Because when they dance on the earth, now all of a sudden, they are putting joy, bliss, and love energy into Mother Earth, which gets encoded into Mother Earth. And then she responds back by producing a life-giving energy straight up. And so you can actually change an entire community, the star people are saying, by walking around generating vortex spots. You don't have to know and believe that they're there. Just do it as a manifestation and just allow it to be. You have no resistance to it manifesting. And so when you start to do this, you may notice a change in people. And so the process of meditation raises the biological frequency, and it allows this source frequency to come up your body and tune into the grids. That's also known as a grid worker, because grid workers consciously are projecting this type of energetic into the upper atmosphere. So what you can do is you can generate a vortex. You can see it. You can feel it. You can think it. You can twirl yourself in circles. You can actually feel the energy twirl around the same exact way as your DNA. You always want to go clockwise, because clockwise is feminine energetics, and it's loving and it's life-giving. And so always go clockwise. Counterclockwise will kill. And so that's just, it is what it is. So if you see a tree in nature and there's an anti-void spot and the tree is circulating the wrong counterclockwise, you'll notice that the tree will probably be dead. And so that happens. Yeah, so just be aware. Okay. Yeah, so, okay, Meg, you removed 2 giant trees and then you missed their energy. Yeah, the trees are amazing, because there's just sometimes, like if you're going through trauma and tragedy, the older trees, if you just walk through them and put your hands on them, it's like they're trying to heal you and you can feel it. Yeah. Okay. So you've had a crystal placed in your third eye and heart chakras by your higher self. Does this relate to any of this? Well, the star people are saying that you have astral ability, but it's also a memory grid ability. And so the crystal is part of the memory because crystals hold memory. And so when you take a crystal in your hand, you can actually encode all of your life memories with it. So every time I'm doing a video, I particularly have this crystal. And then I also have done manifestations, and I've worked with the crystal, and I've told the crystal every time I do a video, please record it. And so now we're talking maybe 20 years, 30 in the future. And then all of a sudden they're going to be able to take this crystal and plug it into a supercomputer or even a quantum computer. And then they're going to be able to see all the memories of every time I had this crystal and I was sitting here talking to you guys. Right. And so everyone should be starting the process of getting a crystal, especially one with a point like this. So it has different sides because you can program different programs into it. But you should be having one of these, and you should be encoding it with memories for your great grandkids because their technology, they're going to have the technology to pull the memory grid out of the crystal. And so, but that brings you to another level. Now, what if we find a crystal that's been in the ground? Can we pull that crystal out and can we ask it questions? How have you been, Crystal? How's Earth's, were you around during the day of Lumiere? Tell me what happened with the pyramids, right? So all of this stuff, we're going to be able to take them and put them in the supercomputers and see. Or you can actually go through your crystalline DNA system and you can unlock your memory gift because a memory gift is directly connected into your plasma of the biological form and it opens and activates. And when that happens, and all of a sudden you can potentially gain access into all of your memory of your entire lifetime, as well as multiple lifetimes. Now, the star people are saying it's going to start with 16. So no, it's 8. There's 8 primary personalities that you can unlock. Each one of those personalities has been you in a past life. So, and it's going to be a female, a male, female, a male. So it's even. Okay. And then it's directly tied into the Merkaba field. So your Merkaba field kind of looks like this, like that. Star tetrahedron. Okay. I don't know if you can really see it too good. It's a square cube, but then it's also the star tetrahedron. See, and it goes into a square cube, right? Well, you have 4 and you have 4. And so that's how many personalities. And so when you make a change and you rotate the point into the top of the crown chakra, you change the personalities. Now, this has to be done with, we're going to say, the sacral chakra energetics. And so the sacral chakra, we all know what that one is. It's very sensual. And so you have to be in that sensual moment to make a chakra switch. A switch in the toroidal field. And so that switches your personality grid. Yeah. Okay, let me see. That was a way expansion from the question. Okay. I'm working on seeing and hearing spirit, frustrated with it. Can you help me? You have to release, right? And so when I started this, they basically had to chase me down because I was like, go away. Go away. And so they kept knocking at the door. And then finally I was like, all right, I guess this is crazy. Let's just be crazy. And then I just started talking to them, right? And so you have to start as if the voice inside your mind, just accept that voice inside your mind could potentially be a star person, because that's how they wish to start communication with each and every person watching. And so they know who everyone is. They know who you are. And even if this is 1 year from now, they know who's watching this and they know what time and space frequency that you're watching it, because they have technology that will tell them. And so for each and every one of you watching, they will assign you a rep, and that rep will guide and support you if you allow it. There's free will. So if you don't wish them to contact you, they will automatically know. If you do wish them to contact you, they'll know by your frequency if you're scared. And so being in fear is going to make it so they'll work with you with like the synchronicities and showing you signs. So it's not scary. But each and every one of you has a star person watching. A lot of them are Arcturian. There's Andromedans. There's also light beings, higher frequencies. The angel realms come forward. There's a lot of different people that come forward because the angels and all these people, they're all connected. And so, yeah. I'm so glad that everyone can hear me good tonight. It's like very good. Excellent. Excellent. Hi, Sandra. Annie Gordova. Very nice. Okay. Let's see. Good. Okay. Somebody asked, how do you know if you're star seeds? Well, that basically comes from inside of you. And so how do you know? When you're a kid, you look up at the stars a lot, right? And you may have had experiences like maybe you were trying to fall asleep and you would hear other people's voices and you didn't know who they were. Or you would see faces. So maybe you saw like 100 different faces and you had no idea who the hell was who. And so that's how you know that you have advanced telepathy gifts, actually. And so that happened to me when I was a kid. And, you know, when I was in high school, I smoked marijuana once, and I actually was high for about 6 months. And it actually was a lot longer than 6 months. Like I even went to the doctor. I thought I was dying. It was crazy. And it made my ears ring. And so I saw the way the hologram flipped. And so what happens is when you have any type of psychoactives, which is why I don't do any of that stuff, I'm scared, but it opens your pineal gland. And so the pineal gland is like a pine cone, and it opens it. And so a lot of times the starseeds, they'll have pre-programmed experiences in place to open the pine cone. Randomly, sporadically, with Kundalini awakenings, this may happen. And so it all depends on what you selected before you came here. Now, you can select something and it doesn't necessarily have to manifest. So let's say you selected to have it when you're 20. Well, when you were 20, it was very obvious to the star people that you weren't ready. So they would shelter you so that negative experiences wouldn't mess up your course. So, you know, soul contracts get changed from a moment to moment frequency. And everything is frequency. So depending on what your heart rate is beating, because your heart is giving off a magnetic frequency at each and every second. And so whatever your heart is giving, that is going to be your frequency that you can make shifts to. Now let's speak about, they're bringing up the deja vu, which is very, very important because our true nature is multidimensional. And so when you are multidimensional in your nature, what does that mean? That means that you're able to not only change your density, which is how crystalline your physical body is, right? And that density level shifts depending on how happy or sad you are. But you can also shift into parallel realities as well as different dimensions. And so that's 3 different levels. Remember, the hologram, everything works by 3. And so you think that you're alone, but you're not alone because there's 2 other soul fragments, and all 3 of you make up the Trinity. And so this is why anytime you see a thought form come into this world, that thought form comes into 3 different people. And that's because of the way the Trinity works. When people die, they always die in 3s. And so that's just the nature. It's sacred geometry, if you want to actually break it down, they're saying. And so yeah, it's very amazing because what does that tell us now? So we are reflecting our energetics out into 3 different people. And so the way the energy comes into the physical reality, it actually flows down the crown chakra. It goes through each and every chakra system. It actually goes down in a triangle. So there's 3 different aspects to your primary frequency. There's a biological frequency. There's the location-based frequency, is the primal experiential frequency, which is like how old you are, I guess, or how much experience you have. And so those 3 things, and they spiral down, and it comes down your physical form. It radiates out like a ripple, like a circle, because all life starts with a circle. And so it comes out as a circle, and then when it comes back in, and this is physics, right? And so when it comes back in, it's forming that sacred geometry snowflake. And so what is that snowflake? That snowflake is your physical body. That snowflake is, this crystal or this pen. And so that snowflake makes the physical reality seem physical. So now that we know that, what does that tell us? Well, this is how things like The Secret work. It's because they're telling you have to change your physical frequency. Okay, well, your frequency is coming in, it's radiating out, it's coming back in. It's forming the physical reality. So you really have to focus on what's your frequency coming in. And so that frequency is going to come through. It's going to stop at each and every chakra system. Now, depending on where your primary focus is at each chakra system is depending on what you're focused on manifestation. And so if you are focused in, let's say you're focused in the root chakra, you're more focused on survival and needs. And so the survival and needs and getting food every day and your car, your house, paying bills, all these things are root chakra. And so when you go through the process, you can meditate, you can heal the root chakra, and then all of a sudden you could switch your focus into another one. How do you switch your focus? So let's say you want to focus on communication. How can you communicate better? Make a list, right? And so when you make a list and all of a sudden you follow the list and keep making a list every single day. And so how can I communicate better? I can write a book. I can sit down, I can put a post. I can sit down, I can have friends, I can have coffee. I can get a blue crystal. The blue crystal will significantly help you, especially if it is large. Now, when I first started doing the podcast, I kept getting blocked. My thing never worked. I didn't change anything. I went through all these different microphones. I'm not even wearing my headset anymore. I have the tiny ones in for Instagram. And so I sat down with the blue crystal and I did work on my throat chakra and it cleared right up. And so the crystals can help you if you allow them to help, if you believe it. And so believe and perceive, because that is how we manifest into the physical reality. And then change your focus. Like the root chakra, you want to make sure that all your ducks in a row. You have to heal yourself. You have to heal your own household first. Clean your house, dust your house, bless your house. When you do all these things, you raise the frequency. Then next, you start to raise and clean yourself, because you never clean your house after you shower. You always get yourself dirty first and then you shower. So clean your house first. Bless your house. Make it a mantra. Do it constantly, because, and they're not lying when they say cleanliness is godliness, because the higher your frequency of your like bedroom, for an example, the most beautiful it is. It's actually when you walk in, your heart can either jump for joy and excitement to walk into a room, or it can sink and it could feel like, oh, it's dirty in there. So each one of us has the option. Would you rather jump for joy? And so you should be making your entire living space as beautiful as possible. And that includes blessing it. And so many, many times, and now, yeah, they're bringing up psychic defense, because that was another topic that I was dealing with my Facebook people. And so, let me just take a second. Okay. When people do things like voodoo, or they do psychic spells or any of this stuff, right? You have to realize what they're doing is they are casting the archons your way. And so the archons are lower vibrational beings or entities. And what they do is they latch onto your energetic grids. Most people can't see them. Some people can. And so they can see them. They're ugly. And some people can feel them. Now, I've always been able to feel them. I just never knew what they were. I've been able to feel them since I was a child, and I didn't have words for them. And so at that point, you just know, because you're like, well, I remember this since I was a kid. And so when somebody does anything along the lines of casting negative energetics at you, that's what they're doing. They're casting archons. However, the archons, you have to consider gatekeepers into the higher frequency realms, because it's the same thing with dealing with bullies. Okay. If you have a bully and the bully is being mean to you and you respond to that bully with love and care and kindness, you shut the bully right down. He gets transmuted. There's nothing he can do. So the archons, if they are pushing negative thoughts inside your mind of, I'm not worthy, I'm not loyal or something like that, then do you believe it? If you believe it, it's going to make you emotional, because you're going to believe it. You're going to get triggered. If you don't believe it, then they disengage right away and they leave you alone, because they know that they can't mess with you. So become one of those people who can't be messed with. There's nothing that you can say to hurt me. Period. And then cast them off you. And then they leave. And let me tell you something, you could feel when they leave, because it's like a breath of fresh air. And sometimes when I do energy clearings on people and I tune into their heart chakra and I clear these things off, they will take a gasp for air. So if you ever see someone do that while you're in the middle of a conversation with them, take notice to whatever they were talking about, because that's an energy blockage. And now I know a lot of people on my channel are healers. And so even if you don't realize that you're a healer, you're a healer. And so you just have the ability, you have the potential to project loving care and kindness at all people around you. And so when you do that, you heal them. It's very simple. But what you're doing scientifically is you're actually casting electrical magnetism frequencies. And so the higher your emotion is of love, the higher the frequency that you cast at that individual. And so it will heal them faster. However, all healing is self-healing. So we don't heal anybody. We cast a healing frequency at them, and it's up to their higher self and their ego mind to either accept it or reject it. And so that's what we do. And yeah, it's just with the archons being gatekeepers, though, really just take them step by step. And the star people actually have a little technique. They can bring in high technology and they can also heal you. They're saying they've done that for me. And so we're not going to get into that, but they can come in and they can heal you guys too. And they show up in people's bedrooms all the time when I talk to them. So ask them to come and they will come for you. Only if they know that you're not scared. So work it out with them. They'll talk to you. So, and they will originally start to talk to you like you were having the conversation with the voice inside your mind. So it's very non-invasive. And so when you start to do that, then all of a sudden they may bring up memories, and bringing up the memories is bringing up shadow work. And so the shadow work is important because you have to heal the traumas that you have. Each and every trauma or emotional emotional coding entrapped in the energetic grid structure, they are saying. So when you have an emotion, it triggers and it blanks into the energetic grids. And so when that happens, it causes a dark spot or a density spot on your energy grids. And so that density spot then reflects back into your physical form, because your energy comes out and it comes back in, comes out, comes back in. And so when it comes back in, if you leave that mark there long enough, then all of a sudden you're going to manifest a disease. And so what they do is they come in and then they start to clean off the grid. But if you're having an emotion that you're having a hard time getting over, let's say you see a memory and you're seeing this memory and the memory comes to you and you have an emotion fire up. So what does that emotion make you feel? Let's take disgust. Because a lot of times, some of the things that we see as children, we're either disgusted or there's fear or whatever emotion you have. And so when you have that emotion, it's okay to say, I now release this emotion, and then have compassion for your younger self. Because whenever you have compassion, it's the easiest way to change the emotion coding of that memory is by holding compassion and holding space of love for you as a child, because you're healing your inner child. Now, there's other techniques that you can also do to do this type of healing. And so the star people are always telling me, have people put themselves in a chair and have a second chair next to them so that they can look into the second chair and just imagine and visualize putting your child mind or your child self in that chair and have a conversation. And it's not only the child self. If you have a traumatic background or history, right? So let's say, for an example, in your 20s, you had trauma. So you can stick your 20-year-old self in that chair and you can have a conversation with yourself, right? You could tell them, listen, I'm so sorry that you walked through this trauma, right? And then imagine, visualize giving yourself a hug and releasing all those emotions. By the end of the session that you do with your younger self, the younger self usually takes your hand and walks you away to do something fun that you'd like to do, your highest passion. And so we can see how childhood traumas or even teenage and 20 traumas can block up your highest potential. And so you won't be the person that you're meant to be in this lifetime if you have childhood traumas. And so this is why all of that needs to end. Now, some people get into the narcissist empath in relationships as adults. And so that also, you can put your traumatized self in that chair and you can heal. And so the healing is very, very important, because it's through the process of healing that we're able to raise our frequency. And so we all came here to hold higher frequencies to some degree, but we're here to have an experience. And I don't know about you guys, but I want to have the experience of one, having a tribe of people who like to have fun and laugh and who are amazing people and loving, caring, kind to every single living thing. And so those are the kind of people I like to be around. Those people have had to have healed themselves. Otherwise, they're going to be radiating the negativity from all of the emotions that they're holding on to. And so you have to heal yourself. It's part of the game. Okay, so lifting the dark magic curse. That was the question. Okay, let's see. Lifting the dark magic curse. I hit something. Okay. Let me see. Okay, lifting it. Okay, so you have to take it through each and every attachment. And so what does that look like? So each and every lower vibrational being carries an emotion code. And so you have some of these things, and you can close your eyes and you can actually see what they look like. And so don't be scared. They are ugly, right? But they're beautiful in their own divine right. These things are connected into the void. The void is darkness, right? And so you have to realize that our soul form comes from the light, comes from the source frequency. That's why we have a soul in a physical body. There are some physical bodies here that do not possess a soul. They can be AI, but they can also be, it's a form of bioengineered, or it can actually be, it could be something else, but they just don't have a soul. And so that frequency comes down the physical form, but then it continues to go down until it reaches into the dark octave. And that's what the star people call it, the dark octave. There's an octave range of chakras, and that range is underneath your feet. It goes into the earth. And that's where the darkness is. It's a void. And so when you start the process of healing all of your primary chakras in your physical form, then the crystalline form, there's a flower on top of your head that opens up. And so I think there might be a picture of it somewhere online. I'm not sure. But it has 12 little points on that. And so 12 different points, each one of those points have to be healed to make that flower fully open up and to allow your soul to pass up into the crystalline realm. And so the crystalline realm is very beautiful. It's gorgeous up there. And it's all loving, caring, kind, and it's bliss. And like it's like the heavens, basically. And so it feels like a warm heart hug when you get to experience a frequency of up there. And so you can meditate right now. And when you meditate, you can try and properly align all of your chakra systems. And then you can try and pull your consciousness up through the top and project it into the 5D realms. Now, each human in a biological form is fully capable of astral projection and remote viewing. Well, I'm also telling you, you are capable of pulling your soul all the way up the body and into 5D. And so you can go and you can have a whole you can have a whole conversation with your ancestors when you do this properly. And so it's very loving and blissful up there. And so, wow, somebody just do something. I feel it. I'm going to just do a quick spiral. Okay. What was I saying? So when you do this, you properly come into your heart space. You have to realize you have to work through a lot of your traumas. Does not have to be all of them in order to do this. Now, there's Kundalini channels inside your biological form. And so the Kundalini channels, there's 3 this way. So there's one in the front. There's the one in the middle, which is the light and the dark. The dark covers the light. That one's directly in the center. And then there's one that goes up the spinal cord. That one is the water. Okay. So you have earth to the left. So the left is earth. Air is in the front. Fire's to the right. The fire is your chi energetics. That's tuned into your masculine energetics. And so the masculine energetics always comes up the right-hand side of the body. And it also, when you pull this energy up, it triggers the right brain hemisphere to become activated in your brain waves. Your left-hand side is your feminine energetics. So that one pulls down from the magnetic sphere of the earth. And so it comes all the way down, it taps into your heart, and it continues to go all the way down back into the earth. And so when you start the process of bringing these two things in order and in alignment, all of a sudden your brainwaves become synchronized. And so why is that important? Each level consciousness can be considered a brainwave frequency, because the higher and higher your frequency, the higher and higher your brainwaves start to fluctuate back and forth. And so that's actually a blessing, because that means that if we want to tune into 5D frequencies, we can close our eyes and meditate. You can feel it. Now, why is that important? It's very important because your emotion code is exactly how you manifest into the physical reality. So each and every emotion that you hold in the now moment is going to change your vibratory frequency, which changes the physical manifestation. And so you can activate your true multidimensional nature by changing and holding an emotion code. So let's say, for an example, somebody who's really, really sad and depressed. Yes, it sucks. We've all walked it. We've been sad. We've been depressed. Just for one moment, just try and do it, even if it's only for a second. Hold love, joy, and bliss in your heart, right? And so imagine a memory that you really, really enjoyed. Close your eyes. How does it feel? Ask yourself over and over and over again, how does it feel? Hold it in your heart, right? Allow that emotion code to wash over your entire physical form. Now, if you're truly dedicated, you would do this once an hour or once every half hour. I was doing it constantly. So every like 10 to 15 minutes, I would just stop and I would do it. But I was really depressed at the time. I was also a cripple and I have a back injury. And so I was in a lot of pain. This is how I healed myself in 2.5 weeks. All my pain shut off. And so you have to change the emotion code. And so the way a deja vu works is kind of like this. In the now moment, you'll feel like something has changed, and you might see something and you're like, oh, I've done this before. But then all of a sudden, when you're at a high frequency, you'll notice that your memory grid, a new one slides into place. And when a new one slides into place, you're like, oh, that's how I know this. And it's kind of like a cluster, right? And so cluster F. And so when you notice that, you know that your emotional expression now shifted your timeline potentials. And so that is the true nature of your multidimensional gifts. Why is that important? Because the second that you do it once, now all of a sudden you know how it works. You know the emotion codes. You know how the emotion codes can change your physical reality. So start playing with your emotion codes. Emotion codes are everything. If you are holding on to happy and high emotion codes, then all of a sudden all your worries and stresses float away, because it doesn't really matter what happens. And then all of a sudden you may be $100,000 in debt. Change your emotion codes and then come into your heart too. That's really, really important, because being in your heart is what activates your emotion codes. Your heart gives off your magnetic energies. And so your magnetic energies are your emotions. And this is why they'll tell you too, if you take a magnet and you wave it over the physical form, pretend that this is a magnet, it will unblock any trapped emotions in the biological form. And so that's because your emotions are magnetic, and it comes from the Earth's magnetic grid, which is why we see the pole shift happening right now. It's all connected. Everything is connected. And so you just take a moment and just keep holding those higher emotional frequencies. And so when you keep holding the higher love-based emotional frequencies, your mind will automatically start the process of doing the shadow work with you. So you may have these old memories get brought up. You transmute them, send them love and light, heal them, cry them. Crying is great. If there's any emotions that are trapped inside the physical form. So let's say, for an example, I take my magnet, I run it on the skin, right? So you're removing the emotion from the top layers, right? Well, what about inside where you don't think your magnet can reach inside? It can. However, a lot of times the internal stuff that's very, very deep, it will force you to cry. And so salt water clears emotions. And our bodies are primarily made of salt. So salt actually, it opens gateways and portals inside your body. So inside every nucleus is like a tiny little black hole. And when humanity realizes just how potentially strong we are, that we are able to switch our vibratory frequency and unlock those tiny little black holes and then instantaneously teleport to anywhere in the earth without using technology, slam dunk for 1.15 humanity, which that's going to happen in time, because people are already doing it now. And I'm seeing these things. I see them. So now releasing the emotions and re-encoding new emotion codes is of high value, because that's how you start to activate these gifts. Now, your energetic grids have 3 different degrees to them. And so the first degree, remember, the energy comes in, it ricochets out, it comes back in, it forms your snowflake, which is your physical form. So your first layer of your energetic grid structure is your biological form. Your biological form includes your binary codex frequency. The binary codex frequency is what tells you, oh, I have red hair, I have brown eyes, I have this, I have that. That's your binary codex frequency. You can make changes to that frequency. It's not permanent. Nothing in this world is permanent. And so making changes, you have to go into meditation. You have to access the subconscious mind. Now, accessing the subconscious mind is going to allow you access. Just imagine you're at a supercomputer. Okay, what do you want to change? Boop, 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 click, done. Right? Now, just visualize it to be done. If it doesn't happen right away, do it again and again. It will manifest. Remember, the more focus that you place on something, the more it manifests. And so you're going to start to see reflections, they are saying. And so the reflections basically looks like, if you are starting to manifest, maybe you want your eyes to be green or blue. And so you may start getting commercials or something maybe popping up along your feeds, giving you advertisements for blue eye contacts. And so then all of a sudden you may notice, you may choose either the blue contacts, so technically your eyes became blue, or you may also get a reflection of, hey, there's a new surgery that changes your eye color. Okay, so now you're getting that. Those commercials are reflections of the manifestation. And so the more and more energy you put into this manifestation, the more reflections you're going to see. But it doesn't have to be a commercial. The star people are also saying that you may hear people in your physical reality talking about it. So like, let's say, for an example, you're at like a convenience store or a gas station. You may hear somebody in front of you say, oh yeah, there's new surgery to turn your eyes blue, right? And so that's a reflection. Because everything that you see in this world, in this reality, is a holographic reflection of your frequency. And the way that this works is like this. So my world, I'm the primary in my reality. And so I'll have an experience with Jane Doe. Jane Doe is reflecting back to me an experience that I needed to have for my own individual evolution. And so from Jane Doe's perspective, she's having a reality and she's her primary. And so she's having the reflections of people around her that are talking to her and having experiences and emotions with her to get her to evolve. And so, but we experience a collective consciousness, and that collective consciousness tells us this planet looks like this, it's round or flat. It could potentially be flat. And no one knows. I really want to see someone astral project, go up and look. And people say, well, they said it was flat. So they used to say that it's both. And so it's both means it's a hologram. And so it is what you want it to be. And so that can actually happen as well. And so you have some people out there who are taking, there's a thing called the power of three, right? Which is when you have two guys and a girl, or two girls and a guy. So it has to be at least one opposite sex. And these three individuals come together and do a manifestation of the power of three. Now, the way that I was instructed to do this at first, I was just told about it. And so I was like, oh, okay, so the power of three. So we should just place focus on it. Well, placing the focus on it is a masculine way of manifestation. So like the movie The Secret. So you put your focus on it, you make a list. What can I do? I believe, right? You write it on a paper, you burn it in a fire pit. You're saying these manifestations, did it come true? No. Why didn't it come true? Right? So there's another way to manifest that's even easier and safer. And so you take a look at the movie The Secret. Now, those guys did the masculine way of manifestation, and then they ended up in court fighting over the money, and they lost a lot of it. That's a masculine way. There could be a negative blowback, right? And so we see that in everyday life. We manifest things, and then sometimes they fall to pieces. It happens. Now, there's a way to do it from the heart. When you manifest from your heart. See, and I was just explaining this one earlier today. I'm going to write a little diagram so you guys can see, because this is kind of important. You have a little gland in the roof of your mouth. This is the reason why babies suck their thumb. Because when a child sucks their thumb, that sucking of the thumb is actually tapping right into that gland. And so here we go. Okay. Okay, can you guys, that's the wrong page. Sorry. It's the wind got me. Okay. So these are your front teeth here. These are your front teeth. Then you have this hard part in the upper mouth. And then you have a little ridge thing there. And then you have the soft bumpy part. Right here, right before the soft bumpy part, it's on the hard part. This is where the gland is. This here is what it looks like. Okay, bam. Okay, so you guys can see the tiny little point is right there. So there's the soft part. This is the hard part. It's right there, right before the soft. These are the teeth. So you guys can see right here. This is the soft part, soft bumpy area. This is the hard part of the roof of the mouth. These are your teeth. You got to wiggle that spot. When you wiggle that spot back and forth, it'll actually start to pop out at you. And so why is that important? That's important because it's triggering alpha in your brain waves. And now alpha brainwave patterning is like the same of joy and bliss. And so why is that important? Well, when we start to become heart cohesion, so you're actually opening up your heart, the higher self comes down the magnetic field, and it will actually sit about a foot off the body in the heart chakra. And so that's really important because you can actually feel it. The heart chakra actually opens up, same as a pine cone. And so when you're in meditation specifically, when you open up the heart chakra, you open up the pineal gland, but you massage that gland, it puts the brainwave patterns into synchronization. And so you're going to see green, but it's going to come from the third eye, not your regular eyes, in meditation. When you're rubbing that gland. When you see green, that means the higher self is fully looking at you and listening for your manifestations. That's when you want to tell the higher self, thank you for giving me X, Y, and Z. And then all of a sudden, just get quiet and be at peace, right? Because the second you saw the green, you sent out the manifestation, you're going to wait because the higher self is going to give you a visual representation of whatever it is that you wish to manifest. And so you may get an image. You may get several images. Now, This is really strong and powerful when you do it with 3 people, especially 3 people who are at a very high level consciousness. Don't be fooled. Your level of consciousness also means your perception or your focus. And so how much about evolution does the person know? How is their perception? Do they see through the hologram? Do they still struggle to pay bills and like the physically focused stuff? So your level of consciousness basically means that you've overcome all the tiny things in your life, and now you're waiting for the next step. Or you may still have a tiny bit of healing to do, but your perception is changed. When your perception changes, that means that you no longer see the physical reality as being solid. That means that you know that all of your needs are going to land at your feet when you're in alignment. So you try and be in alignment all the time, as much as possible. Sometimes traumatic things do happen. There's nothing that you can do. That's the cycle repeats that we manifest. And then we also see that on a civilization form. So you have to also remember they're saying that the starseeds came into this reality in order to help evolve the entire planet. And so a lot of the civilization we're seeing is a lot of chaos. However, that chaos is all bubbling to the surface and it's being reshaped. So if you look at the chaos like it's a sacred geometric snowflake, that basically means that it's scattering into a million pieces. And then when the 5D or 4D frequency range, 4D is the scattered sand, they're saying. And when 5D is fully held, it's going to pop up and form a brand new sacred geometric snowflake, which is going to look more complicated than the 3D. Now, the way that 4D works, it's kind of like a quasi-cube. And the shadow of that quasi-cube comes down into the third dimensional reality. And that's what makes us think that we're in 3D. But we are a shadow of the 4D. And so 5D is a shadow of 4D is a shadow of 5D, they are saying. I had that backwards. Thanks, guys. Yeah, they always correct me. It's great. So, but that's the way it works. And so it's like a shadow of a shadow of a shadow. And so now you see that the scientists have been saying this for a couple of years already. And they've been saying we're one universe that's inside of another universe. So that's what they were actually talking about. There are some portals on the planet that will lead you into the higher frequency realms. And I'm not even talking about 5D. It can lead you someplace higher. And so they do have special rooms quarantined so that when 3D people accidentally make it through the gate, they are not completely blown away. Because when you, right now, if you guys were making contact and communication with the 7D person or individual, they're not even individuals, they're light beings at that point. But if you were, it could potentially blow your entire ego away because they're in unity consciousness. They are all one. And so you have to be very careful. So they have safeguards in place so that when lower vibrational people come in, because even if we're in 5D, we're a lower vibration than them. They're up there in 7D. And so the star people are also making it very important that everyone realizes that Earth was at an even higher frequency at one point. And so because the consciousness grid was very, very high, it fell. And when it fell, basically, we're being given the opportunity to raise higher than 5D. And so what does that look like? That looks like 4D, which we can kind of see happening right now in the civilization. There's a lot of chaos, and 4D is chaos. It's a half step. And if you looked at the notes on the piano, you have 3 and then you have 4. 4 is kind of like the half step. And then you have another 3 and 4, so there's 8. Okay, so there's 7 chakras. 8 would be Do, which is the top chakra in the next octave. So that's how our chakra system works. When you get into 5D, the chakra system changes. So it's a whole new frequency of light waves. It's faster. And so we don't know what the chakra system is going to look like in humans. We know what it looks like in like Arcturians, for an example. They know what it looks like, but they say yours may be potentially different than ours. So we have to wait and see because the color spectrum could be potentially different, they're saying. Yeah, so let's see. Okay. We are at 8:56. I'm going to just take a breather and see the comments. So let's see. Okay. Our weird sudden explanation, body parts. No, let me start that over. Our weird sudden unexplained body pains from energy being transmitted throughout a body. I mean, yes, it can happen. And so I've actually had an experience in which I was in a circle of people and it wasn't my building. So I was there at someone else's building. And so one person didn't want me to speak. And so I felt like all the air was being gasped out of my body. And so that was because the other person was thinking a thought, which is casting an energetic. And so they were casting, I don't want her to speak. And so what was happening was all the air was being pulled from me. And so, yeah, there's other channels who will also tell you when they start coughing that it's a negative energy that doesn't want you to speak. And so usually I grab a piece of selenite. And so I put selenite right in front of the camera that my intuition is telling me, okay, the negative energy is coming from that one. And then I block it, and I do all this in my mind so that you guys don't think I'm crazy, but it's all happening up there. So, yeah. Okay, let me see. We're definitely going to use the chair exercise. Yeah, amazing. Telepathy, any type. So telepathy starts with making the contact with the voice inside your mind. And so the voice inside your mind is going to tell you things. If it tells you positive things, that could potentially be a star person. If it tells you negative things or tries to have you like suicide yourself, that's definitely not the star people. I would tell that to go away because that could be a negative entity. And so be aware the star people only want love and light. They are all peace and they want us to evolve. And to them, I deal with the Arcturians a lot. And so the star people are an organization with the Arcturians, and they're very, very spiritual. They're kind of like the Jedi. Now, the Jedi is like the Jed Pillar Unk, right? So the Egyptians knew what a Jed was. It's just an energy. And so the Jedi are people who have mastered this form of energetics, and they're able to do things like manipulate matter with their mind. And so Jesus Christ was able to do this too. There's people in the solar system that can do this, and they come in all shapes and all forms. And, you know, to me, there's only one color on this planet. There's brown, because a white person, we're not really white. We're a form of tan. And so if you look at that, it's one frequency wave for each and every person on the planet. And so we think that we're divided, and we're not. We're one, because we are about to activate unity consciousness. And so the people in the solar system, the reason why I bring this up is because they're green, they're yellow, they're purple. They're made of gas. They're not made of gas. They're made of plasma. They're aquafarian, so they must stay underwater. So that's a different density or dimension altogether. And we can kind of see how the density levels works by that example they are saying. And so you're on Earth, you breathe oxygen. Other people breathe helium, depends on your sun and the solar system that you're in. And so if people are underneath in the water, we know that when you walk through water, it's a little more dense for our body. Their bodies are different, and yet they handle that density very differently. That's what the star people are saying. So we take a look at the environment. That is your density level. So what happens if someone who's not aquafarian, who's living under the water, mermaids, what happened if one of those people started the process of evolution? Their bodies would also crystallize, right? And they would raise their frequency. The 5D and the angel realm, that entire realm is encoded right on top of this entire universe. So it goes back to the whole universe in a universe in a universe. That's how the holographic simulation is designed. It's quite genius, if you ask me. But yeah, so let me see questions. Okay. Excellent, excellent. I hope everybody really enjoyed it tonight. It was kind of nerve-wracking. Yeah, thank you everybody for liking, like sending thumbs up and stuff. This way I can know you guys hear me. This is wonderful, because I think that we haven't had a single interruption the entire life. Great. Oh, and so we are going to end. It's 9. And then Allie likes me to tell you guys about the website. So we have this website. It's called DanielleLipton.com. And so you can actually go in and you can book a session with me. So a lot of times the like your star family will step forward, so you'll get to know who you are with, and so, or who is following you guys around. And so, but now we also are offering healing sessions. And so this was something that came about because a lot of my people doing regular sessions, they had a lot of trauma built up that needed to be released. And so we offer healing sessions, and the healing sessions will go through your entire energetic grid structure. And I will teach you how to clear yourself, as well as I will do a clearing with you, with the star people, and your star family comes forward as well. And so it's part of the star people's mission to bring you guys the most amount of power, right? So they don't want to be your saviors. They want to teach you guys so that you can get up and you could do it, and you won't need anybody. And so that's power, because all of my information, I wanted to make sure that we can take it into the physical reality and utilize it for something good. And so this information to me is the most important in my entire life, because it shows us that extrasensory abilities, magical abilities, are real. And so each and every one of us has the potential to unlock them. And it comes from an open heart and loving and caring each person around you. And so each and every person that I interact with on all my social platforms, they've turned into a community. And like, I'm so proud of them all. And so like, if I put a post and I miss a comment, the people reading my posts, they go right in and they help people that need help. And it's absolutely amazing. And so we know that violence begets violence. And so, but no one ever told us that love begets love. Because when you put love into building a community or even spreading information and just truly setting the example to be family with each and every person on the planet, right? And so that's what we do. We shine love and light to everyone. And we set boundaries for ourselves, right? So we have to love ourselves enough to put boundaries when they need to be put. And so, yeah, it's just amazing. What does it mean when you see purple? So purple is actually associated with the third eye. So the way that it works when you're in meditation, you pull your soul. I don't know if I said this already today. You're actually pulling your soul up your biological form. And so this is the reason that people were called elders, because it was a meditative state. The crown chakra became blocked at one point. So they were not able to pull themselves right out the crown chakra. Now, a lot of people, the crown chakra is still blocked. However, when you do the work, you can unblock it. And so that's allowing that flower to open up. It's 12-pointed star that's above your head. And so that 12-pointed star is a form of a Merkaba field, and it's counter-rotating. So one's going one way, one's going the other way. And so why is this important? Because there's 12 different personality prototypes that need to be properly cleared. Anger, lust, all of these things. You need to clear all of the 12 monkeys out of your system, and it cleans off the 12 points, which then in turn allows your soul to pass right through that into the crystalline realm. That's very important. And so that's like the most important thing, because we're here to ascend and evolve. And so this is how you do it. And it's amazing to me, I think. Yeah. So what else was I saying? Yeah, so you go through and you meditate, you open your heart, you do a little thing in the roof of your mouth, you put yourself in an alpha, and then all of a sudden you allow your spirit to come all the way up. Now, when this was blocked, the star people are stepping in because I totally forgot what was going on. So when this was blocked back in the time of Lumerius, they're saying, or Atlantis, this was blocked. And so the elders had to come out the pineal gland to go up. And so when they came out the pineal gland, they looked like elves. And so they were known as the House of El, or elders, because those were your elders. And so it's actually a meditation technique. And that's how they were able to make contact with the 5D frequency realm. And so you can actually sit down with the angels. You can have a whole conversation with them. And I know how crazy that sounds, but hopefully you guys will understand. Yeah. My mom saw angels, and she's very physically focused. She was Catholic and all that stuff. And she went into church once and she saw a bunch of angels. So she doesn't really know my information. So yeah, if she's seeing them, that means that they're real, because that woman doesn't lie. Yeah, it's amazing. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Okay, let's see. Meditate on the color green. Eat green foods. Green is healing. That's right. That's why our planet is green. And it needs so much healing, but that's why it's green. And so you may notice that other planets, they may not be green. They may be purple. There's a lot of purple planets. And so purple planets, what are those people primarily focused on? On astral work, right? And so a lot of times they'll have the dream walkers there. And so the dream walking ability is amazing, because you know how we were talking about deja vus earlier? Well, just imagine having a deja vu in a dream. And then all of a sudden, whatever it was that you had in a deja vu, it manifested into real life, and you saw it and you felt it and you experienced it. That can be done. And so you take a look at the manifestations on the collective consciousness right now. And so you put this movie out called Meg, which is showing us a megalodon. Now, all of a sudden, there's megalodons in the ocean. Like, they caught them on video. They saw a baby one, and they saw a little thing on the fin. It's wild. But it was a collective movie. And so the people running the TVs and movies and all that stuff, they're not really positively focused. And would we watch them if they were? There has to be something to overcome. That's the hero's quest. If the movie isn't written a certain way using the hero's quest, then most people don't go. And so when there are going to be positively aligned movies, things are going to be different because we'll be manifesting. Because the second that you're watching a movie, your conscious mind actually clicks off right away. Your subconscious mind fires up. That's what happens when you drive as well. And so most of the movie is just being downloaded directly into your subconscious mind. And so when that happens, then all of a sudden, if you're watching negativity, that negativity you can kind of see reflected into the civilization. That's why we take a look at the Simpsons movie. Now, the Simpsons movie, we see a lot of those things come to light. That's the #1 push TV show on the cable network, right? And so it's just amazing. Well, I mean, when you take a look at all the synchronicities that play in the factors, it's like, okay, so how do we use it for a positive? Because let me tell you something. They could take a whole movie and in a split second, they're showing you a teeny tiny clip of one teeny tiny picture. And that teeny tiny picture then manifests into the physical reality. So what is it? That means that one teeny tiny picture can manifest because it hit my subconscious mind. So how do I do that to myself? Because if you guys can use it for negative, then I'm going to sit here with the home video camera and I'm going to tell myself I'm beautiful. I'm going to tell myself I'm amazing. I'm going to tell myself I'm a genius. And this is actually what I did. I did it so many times because I was in a dark place and this is how I healed. But when you keep telling it to yourself over and over and over again, then all of a sudden it becomes true in your reality. And then all of a sudden you can even unlock higher levels of consciousness on your thinking. So your thought grid actually can become expanded. And so the thought grid is directly tied into the pineal gland. It's yellow in its nature and it's dodecahedron. Your emotion grid is connected to your heart and it is hexagonal. And so when both of these things overlay each other, they say it forms an icosahedron. And so that icosahedron, because one is yellow, one is blue, put them together, it makes green. The green is your memory grid. And so why is that important? Well, when you start to look at the memory grid, then all of a sudden you can actually close your eyes and every single microsecond of your entire physical reality is stored on that energy grid. And so now when the star people came down to heal me, they actually pulled at the memory grid and I would see the entire line. So imagine each experience. I got off my butt. I went in my car. I drove to Dunkin' Donuts. I got a nice coffee. I parked. I had to drink the whipped cream before I would move. When they pulled the line out of the memory grid, I would see step by step, every step of each and every experience. And then they were like, now you have to heal it. So then I would go and I would heal it. I love you, iced coffee. And then now I don't drink coffee because I'm not allowed because they said so. It messes up the channeling and stuff. So caffeine, we should really be very aware of because caffeine, I used to love it. It's so good. And now I drink water. But caffeine actually spikes your heart rate. And so what we want to do is we want to start lowering the heart rate because the lower and more peaceful your heart rate is, it'll change your breathing as well because your breathing will be in the upper lungs when your heart rate's very high. And that's like animalistic. It's like fear, right? And so when you start to lower the heart rate or even talk slower or even talk quieter, right? Then all of a sudden your biological form starts kicking into a form of meditation. And so when you start doing that, then all of a sudden it makes it easier to manifest things into your physical reality. It makes it easier to heal yourself and bring peace or change your emotional frequency, they are saying. So that's really important because when you have 1 cup of caffeine, let's say you drink it first thing in the morning, which a lot of people do. They're like, oh, I woke up, I need my coffee. You don't realize how it's affecting your heart rate. You don't realize how it's affecting your blood pressure, right? And all these things are important. The blood pressure carries the crystals, right? The crystals is the salt. That salt, it's a mineral. It's going inside each and every cell and it's helping with that vortex. It's activating your chi energetics in all the cells of the physical form. And so what happens when we're not properly mineralized? And this is why the ancients used to worship salt. You have to be worth your weight in salt. And that's because they knew, even if you're crossing the desert, you have to have salt with minerals in it. Now, the actual drinking water, spring water, when it swirls, it's a vortex energetic that's coming from inside the earth. While that energy is vortexing, it is picking up all of these delicious minerals. And then all of a sudden, your body needs all of those minerals, but you get minerals from different locations or giving you different frequencies. And so we take that, and this is the reason why bottled water originally popped up, because the water that you're going to get from the top of a mountain is completely different than a spring. One may have more minerals. One may be healing water. Well, what the hell makes it healing water? The minerals. So they tell you the story about you have to jump in a bathtub. But what they don't tell you is you have to jump in every day for 30 days because your body needs more minerals in just one time, right? However, the power of manifestation, if you had, the star people are stepping up, if you had someone who was a very, very high frequency being, they are able to bless the entire frequency of that spring, or they're even able to call the vortex spring to begin with. And so what they're showing me is somebody coming and doing a manifestation, projecting energy and generating a spring right there and calling it a healing spring because it will heal the people because there's a manifestation or a spell because they are casting a spell, just like you're writing it down, spelling. You're spelling with your words, just like you're spelling with the words on the paper. It's the same thing. And so they cast it with their energy to make a spring. This is all it is. It's a manifestation if you take it from the science. And so when they do that, then all of a sudden, there's going to be super minerals inside that's going to heal the body very rapidly because it's been shown that our food is lacking minerals greatly. And so what they do is they buy Miracle Grow, which is vitamins, and they dump that on and it makes the plants grow. And that's wonderful. But we need vitamins and minerals. And so you need both in combination. And so I would be very careful with the table salt because the table salt, like Morton's table salt, like that cheap stuff, yeah, they put iodine in it and that's great. We need iodine. That's another mineral. However, they make a huge pile outside. And so it's sitting there next to like a highway and it's collecting all this debris and all that stuff. And it's just, you know, I've done mineral extractions, right? And I'm like the stay-at-home mom scientist. So I get my lye, which is it's a chemical. And so you take salt, you put it in, you make high concentrated salt water. You add your lye into it. You test the pH, has to be 10 or under. You don't want to go higher than 10 because then you're going to drop out the heavy metals. It has to be 10 or under. So monitor it carefully. You take your lye, you put it in, all this white stuff sinks down to the bottom. That's the minerals in the salt. Why am I telling you this? Because I've taken regular white table salt and I've tried to extract the minerals and there's zero. So that tells me that the company is extracting all of the minerals from that salt before they reconstitute it, which I don't think that they're washing that 3 times. So I bet you that there's still chemicals in it. And because we only use salt at a little bit at a time, nobody's really noticing the effects of the salt. And so, but they are definitely extracting the minerals of the salt. And it's the minerals that your body needs. It's not really the salt. It's the minerals. And so when you switch to things like Himalayan pink sea salt, now they're starting to make pink salt. Pink sea salt, pink salt is not Himalayan salt. So that one too, I would bet that if you tried to do a mineral extraction, you probably would not be getting too many minerals. And so you want to just be careful. You know, and that's it. And so buy from a company that you trust. Or Dead Sea salt is amazing for like bathing in because you can't take that one all the time because it's just too much for your body. And so you would want to bathe in it. But you also want to look at things like seaweed. And so when you start taking like spirulina, seaweed, algae, right? So those things are very high in minerals. Where do they come from? They come from the salt. And so when you start ingesting them like superfoods, then all of a sudden you get this burst of energy and you feel amazing. So what is that doing to your energetic grids? Well, anytime that you are eating any type of salt food that is high in minerals, the minerals is a crystal because it's salt. And so that crystal gets in you and it gives you more voltage. Now, it's very important to balance the pH level as well because your pH level is another thing that it balances your chi energetics and your oxygen needs to be properly balanced. If your pH levels and your oxygen are properly balanced, you won't be sick. That's the bottom line. And so Wim Hof talks about that because he does the breath work technique where he takes 30 deep breaths and then he holds his breath. But they injected him with E. coli and he didn't get sick. And that's all he was doing was breath work. So it's a miracle. To me, it's a miracle. So that basically the entire pandemic, I was sitting there doing breath work. And I never got sick. So, you know, if your body is in a proper balanced stasis, that means that we can activate our crystalline DNA and we can become invincible. And so I want each and every person watching this to know that there is a divine protection that you can also activate. And so this is kind of important because a lot of people who get into talking about this type of information, they may notice turbulence. But if you're in divine protection, then all of a sudden it's a manifestation of a holographic simulation. And so everything you need may fall at your feet. Now you may be tested, so you may have scary things happen on a rare occasion, but you overcome them and they didn't really cause you harm. They were only there to try and make you scared. So you overcome them. But the more and more you stay in your heart and the more you stay of service to your collective, the more and more that divine protection will wash over you. And each and every one of you can make contact with the star people and ask them too, because they always protect their people. You have to remember, a lot of us, most of us, 99%, they're saying a starseed. And so that means that you have a star family. And that means that your star family, imagine your child. If your child went off to another planet, wouldn't you always keep an eye on that kid to make sure that your kid is okay? I would. My cell phone would always be like, call me. And so that's how the star family is. They are like that with us. They are always like, keep an eye on that. She's my family, right? And so that's what they are to us. Even though we're born here, we're in a new body, they live 1,500 years. And so we live 100. And so they're like, you can go down there for 100 years and then come back to us. Why can't you? Right? They have soul technology. They can yank your soul out of one body and put you in another body. Many of us have stasis pod bodies. So I have a stasis pod body on an Arcturian ship, except it's actually back in the planet, so it's safe. And so if something went wrong here with me, they would just ripcord me and put me back in that body. So it's a safety net is what it is. And it's a safety net so we don't get stuck in the reincarnation cycle here on Earth. There is some type of reincarnation grid, you may call it, around Earth. And so some of us may be able to make it out of that cycle. Some of us may get trapped. It's all depending on what the consciousness thinks and does. And this is soul technology, you have to realize. So a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us, when they pass on, they get looped back into the Earth grid. And so it's kind of like, well, bam, you have to reincarnate here again. And so why is this allowed by the source frequency? Well, this is allowed because when this happens, your soul is meant to evolve very rapidly. So no, you're not leaving this planet until you're in your light body, right? And so that's valid because we came here knowing that we can do it. However, some of us were like, you better put a body on ice for us just in case. And so you'll see, because a lot of the first wave people, they got stuck here. And so that's when they really started like, okay, we have to do stasis pods. This way they, it's like a backup. Yeah. So a lot of us have that. And so if you want to know if you have a stasis pod, ask the star people to show you a stasis pod and then go to sleep and then see what you see. They're saying that they send you the visuals in the morning right before you wake up. This way you don't forget. But they may show you a glimpse. Or you may have a dream that you woke up and you opened the stasis pod and you saw all your friends. I had a dream like that. And then I was like, are we really plugged into a hologram? Right? And then I went through a whole period where I was like, are we really? And yes, we are. But it's not really, but it's life, but it's not. It's weird. Yeah. Are there any more questions? Let me see. You see, once again. And so I see these are my people who read my posts. Way to go, Meg. Replying to Karen, green or pink is part of the heart chakra. Just love yourself and be happy. And so that's a prime example in my comments here about how everyone always takes care of each other. And that really warms my heart because those are the type of people I like to attract, right? People who are going to help each other and take care of each other. I'm proud of you, Meg. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. You got Christian. I understand not crazy at all. I see sigils in my meditation. Yeah. So I was having I was trying to go to sleep. I was not even meditating. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I'm lazy with the meditations, right? I do them when they make me do them. But this time I was trying to go to sleep and they were like, you're going to meditate. So sometimes I don't have a choice. But they showed me this green. It kind of looked like one of those kaleidoscope things. And it started spiraling and it was moving. And so I panicked, of course. I'm like, oh my God, it's green, right? So I opened my eyes and it's still there. And so it wouldn't leave. And then it started turning red. And then it started turning whatever other color. I don't even know. And so they told me that was a DNA activation. And so if you ever see that, now notice the way that the visual perception works. They normally send you an energy into the left eye, and then you'll project the image out of the right eye. but that's not what happened with my thing. With my thing, I saw it in the left. So this was, I'm assuming that this was technology. And so, but the normal way of telepathy will be in the left eye and out the right. When you are sending a message to them, you're pulling your energy in the right and you're beaming it out the left. It's a form of sending a visual representation telepathically to another being. And so we can do this. I do this all the time with them now. So yeah, it's amazing. When I close my eyes, I see rainbows like reflective, and the rainbows have circles and circles. And I think about 3 concentric circles all over the rainbow. Yeah, that's an aura field. That's actually what your aura field looks like. Because if you had a look at your energetic grid structures, it looks like a grid that makes up a form of a circle. And then it's like red and orange and yellow and green and blue and purple. And they all layer each other, but then they all come and they look super bright and white because the white light overpowers all of the color. So the colors turn into like a U. But depending on your emotional frequency is actually going to determine what emotion, what color you're radiating in your aura field. So what does that look like? Let's say that you're in love. You're having a great day. You're staring at the sunshine. Your heart's open. Your aura field's going to be green because that's a heart chakra. Let's say you're communicating. So me right now, I could potentially have blue because, well, in the background. But yeah, it could be blue because my throat chakra is very activated. Yeah. So that's perfect. So we're going to take last call, last questions. I do this a lot. I do last call and then a half hour goes by. For me, it feels like 5 minutes. I don't know about you guys. Someone is saying, they say a blue planet during meditation and wants to know what planet that is. That could be any of them. There's so many different blue planets up there. And then not only that, they're showing me the Third Eye Blind cover to one of their things. I used to have the CD collection when I was younger. And so there's actually a blue planet on that. We should research that one. But that's what they're showing me. There's a lot of blue planets. And there's actually a planet in our solar system that's made of dark matter. And so that one's important because that one's actually changing the frequency of the entire planet. So yeah, we can't see it. It's made of dark matter, so it's connected into the void, so we can't see it. However, that Kundalini energetic tube that runs inside of you that's made of dark matter, the star people are saying that you can activate that. You could tune into the planet, make contact and communication with the beings when they're on that planet. You could talk to them. What do you do when there's a communication block with your higher self? There's usually a communication block. Your higher self does not want to see you unless you are loving, caring, kind, right? And so when you open up your heart, that's joy and bliss and love. You have to be of service to other people when you do that. And so if you are greedy, for an example, then that heart chakra is not going to be fully open. You may have a little opening. You want it to open like a flower. And then all of a sudden the higher self sits inside and opens like a pine cone. And so remember, on top of the crown chakra, there's a 12-pointed flower that opens. And then there's a 12-pointed Merkaba field above in the grid. The heart is the same exact way. So could be an energy blockage. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's definitely an energy blockage because if you had all your energetics were properly aligned and you were enjoying bliss, and let's say, for an example, you laughed all day. When you laugh all day, the higher self automatically looks at you. When you activate your Merkaba field, that's an important one. Your Merkaba field is a triangle pointed up and a triangle pointed down. And so both are counter rotating. Don't worry about which direction. Just tell them to rotate and they do it automatically. That's the feminine way of manifesting them to rotate. When you activate your Merkaba field, the higher self automatically looks at you. When you experience heart, I'm going to call it heart chakra blast so that we don't get censored, but it's a word with the O. The heart actually does that. It's a very sensual meditation. And so when that happens, it vibrates, it changes your entire frequency of your biologic form. And so it's kind of like being hugged with 1,000 hearts open. And so that radiates throughout your entire body and you feel bliss. That's what that is. And so that shifts it and your higher self will come down and you will start to feel the higher self embody into the heart chakra. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Happy to make it on the live. Thank you guys for coming. Yes. Okay. Excellent. So we are going to end now. So many, many love and blessings, guys. Thank you so incredibly much for watching. I believe we're going to do this again Thursday. So if anybody has any questions, if you want to just Facebook them to me, I'm at Danielle Lipton on Facebook or the treeoflifeorganization.com. And that one takes us to a Facebook page as well. So all of my downloads, I actually write out really, really long downloads on each and every topic. And so this way I can really have a piece of something to read. So I can put it out there for you guys, and there's no charge for that. There's over 500 posts on both my Facebook page and the treeoflifeorganization.com. And so that's really where you can just, you have to spend like a week just diving in and reading each post. And it's like a step-by-step instruction of what the star people told me to do to start accessing 5D. And not only that, but all the posts are very like, this is how you take the spiritual information and work it into the physical reality. And that's really important because you want to be able to take your spirituality and help it to improve your physical existence. They're connected. They shouldn't be separate. They're one and the same. And so, yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. So thank you, guys. And also, if anyone wants to book a session with me, you can go to DanielleLipton.com. The Ascension sessions are usually where your star family comes forward. And so you get which gifts you have attunements to. And then I also go through and I activate them. And so I like to ask the people if it's okay to activate them. You know, some people, but it automatically does its thing. And so I just send crystalline activations into the DNA. And then a lot of people see UFOs or they start talking to the star people, which is just amazing, right? And so they had aliens in their bedroom. Who doesn't want that? Like, you make contact with your star family, and then you figure out who you actually were in a past life. So that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. And then a lot of times, they're also saying if you have an energy blockage, you may not know your highest passion, or your highest potential may be unfulfilled. And so what they do is, my energy clearings are very, very, very strong. And so we clean out all of the energetic grids. And so when that happens, if there's any cycle repeats, the cycle repeats always come back around. And so you may notice that chaos in the next day or two. That's normal. And so what you just do is you transmute it, and then the cycles are ended, and then you raise your frequency very rapidly. And so the star people know what you need, and they know what is going to help you or what's not going to help. So they do all of that. But yeah, DanielleLipton.com. And then I believe coming up soon is the private star person channeling. And so we do this once a month on the first Saturday of the month. And so we let people come into a private Zoom and ask their independent questions. So you guys can ask questions and the star people will answer them for you. So that's actually coming up. That's also on DanielleLipton.com. You could book in, and then we send you a Zoom link and you come hang out with us and we go have fun. Excellent. So many, many love and blessings. Thank you guys so incredibly much for coming. And I love you all. Have a great night. Okay.